Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Wellness with Pau, where we really dig deep into aspects of life that would help us remember, awaken our souls that we are creative, cosmic creatures, and we are using life as a platform to be our most shining self. So today I'm very excited to have my dear friend Sheri to join us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about self-care, 4 levels of self-care. But before that, I want to introduce Sheri. So Sheri, would you like to say something about yourself?
Sure. Well, I will say a little bit about our history together, just so that they can make that connection. Our boys were led to be friends, I'd say, and to bring us together at a time when I was actually trying to manifest. I was manifesting a friend at that time, and you popped right into my life. So that was 12 years ago, I think.
12 years ago, my God.
Yeah, so even the start of our relationship was started with manifesting. So I think that's a beautiful thing. That aligns well with our relationship. So
it's so true. I was also trying to manifest for my only son a friend, and a friend for me. And my son went to YMCA, right? And then I don't know, I heard from my son that he's with your son, and he was talking about him crazily, and I wrote you a note, and that's how it all started.
Yeah, that was it. I still have a picture of that note. I treasure it. It was one of the best days ever. Yes, they were just crazy about each other, and then we met and found out that we were equally aligned. So
absolutely. And then even if we don't live in the same state anymore, I feel very connected with Sheri, and it just says how much it doesn't matter where you are. If you're connected by heart, you know, if you're divinely connected in that way, I think that it there's no beginning, there's no end in that kind of relationship, right? Like we're in our thoughts, we're in each other's thoughts every day. So I really love you, Sheri, and I cherish your relationship.
I agree. I feel the same way. I'm thankful for all the technology that we can do to stay close. I think we'd still be always close. We'd be one of those friends that even if we hadn't talked for years and we ran into each other somewhere or was able to get together, we would just start right back up where we left. But I think the technology helps us even more to keep the relationship close.
And I think, Sheri, for our listeners, we wish the same for them. Yeah, so I know we're going to be talking about self-care, but if you're trying to manifest friendship, kindred spirit, it's possible, guys, because we, Sheri and I, have that. And we just asked for it. It happened.
Absolutely. And it just came. It just happened.
So going back to self-care, I want to talk to you a little bit, Sheri, about the 4 levels of self-care that I religiously do every day. So I want to state it. I want to list it down. So there are 4 levels for me: the emotional, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual self-care. And I'm going to put a little bit of keywords for each of the layer. Emotional, for me, emotional self-care is about just making sure at the end of the day I'm cleansing my emotions and going through the day of what are those emotional moments that are undesirable for me, and I'm letting them go before I go to sleep. Okay, and then physical is making sure I do something for myself that is good for my physical body. And I do a lot of movements during the day. That's part of my natural, just going through the day. And mental is making sure I learn something new. Either I'm watching something that makes me learn something new, or reading something, or listening to something, or just looking at something. And then the last one is spiritual, which is not really religious, but it's more of making sure I'm always connected to what I think is my purpose in life. So as I go through those layers, what are your thoughts about this, Sheri, when I say this 4 levels of self-care?
Yeah, I think what really strikes me is I used to kind of struggle between the difference between emotional and spiritual. You know, I kind of box them into one thing, that my emotions were my my spiritual side as well. So I like that you've kind of talked a little bit about the differences in the two. Obviously, all four have to sync up, right? You need the healthy in all four to really have a whole healthy life.
Yeah.
But those two are the two that are, at least I always felt, was the most closely aligned to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often confused the differences between the two.
Yeah.
So I think, talking a little more about the depth of that too.
Yeah, I've always believed that a lot of my emotional state during the day kind of drives what I say or what I think. It's just so powerful, right? Emotions kind of like, if you don't control them or if you just let them be and not be self-aware, it could bring you to dark places, or sometimes it could bring you to the highest of places, right? And it could impact how you manifest your reality. I don't know. Can you resonate with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think I struggle putting a hierarchy between the four, but it does, like the emotions, because we are very emotional beings, that is the one area that can overshadow the others. If you are extremely sad or angry about something, you struggle then to do self-care in the other areas.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's almost like you have to have that base of caring for yourself, which is, I think, the area that we get the least amount of education and the least amount of support in as far as we're growing up. I think it's changing for our kids, but how many of us grew up knowing how to deal with our emotions? It was always just shove them down, ignore them, overpower them, which you can't really do, but I think that's what we were told to do.
Yeah.
But when we're doing that, that's not allowing us to be healthy in any of the four areas.
Yeah, when I started thinking about emotional self-care, it started with just inventorying the emotions during the day for me. During the day, if I'm awake for 18 hours, let's say, how many of those hours are more about the higher frequency emotions, and how many of those hours are more the low frequencies? Or what are the people or things that made me feel in lower vibration emotions? And then at night, I'm consciously really just saying, I'm letting go, I'm letting go, I'm letting go. And that's what I mean by emotional cleansing. Have you ever tried something like that, or is this something you think that you would like to try?
Well, I think how I've experienced it is, and I've just started doing this recently with my counselor. I have the printout of how they have the different faces with the different emotions, right? And I usually use it when I'm undergoing something pretty a little more in depth, not for everything. I think I need to use it more throughout the day. But if something happens and I have an emotional reaction to it, if I look at that and I look at all the different emotions that we have, if it's something where, I'm angry, I'm sad, I think we kind of stop at those basic ones. And I need to look up what you mean by like the higher frequency and the lower frequency, because I don't know much about that. It might be similar to what I'm saying. I just don't have the words for it. I don't know. But when I look at that chart, I see there are a lot of emotions that I don't even realize I have until I see them there. For example, I was very upset one time for something that happened, and one of the emotions that I was surprised that I had was embarrassment. That it wasn't just that I was angry, that it wasn't just that this had made me mad, but there was this embarrassment that the thing had happened, and then a deeper embarrassment that I was embarrassed that it happened. Like I thought I was a little more evolved than that. I thought I was more diverse, that I couldn't be embarrassed by something so easily. So I think looking at the different emotions and being aware of the different emotions that we can have, sometimes we're like, wow, I didn't even realize that was in there. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling.
Oh my God, I love what you said. It's because it's anchoring to this awareness of what we're feeling. And sometimes when we're not able to really define what that is, you cannot really say what is that, and you cannot really understand what's causing it because you don't have a definition or label to it, right?
Right, exactly. And if you don't have that start, how can you really work through it?
Absolutely.
The other thing my counselor has me do is she talks to me about, where am I feeling that? Is it in my head? Is it in my heart? Is it in my chest, in my arms? When I have that emotion, where am I feeling it in my body? So again, I'm new on this journey, but I'm finding the value in it, that that's the first step to dealing with our emotions, is knowing what they are, knowing where we feel them in our body.
Yeah, and yeah, you know how sometimes you feel like the feelings coming from your tummy, like, and I feel like that feeling from the tummy is kind of like fear, and then when sometimes it comes from the chest, and I feel like when it's coming from the chest, it's more like I'm being suppressed.
Yes.
Can you relate?
Yes, exactly. And with my arms, sometimes I feel like I'm being held down and powerless, but at other times I feel like I'm strong and I'm in power. So even in the different areas of our body, right, it can be a totally different meaning to us, how we're feeling about it.
Yeah. And there are emotions that make you feel like, the blood is draining off your face. Yes. And you're suddenly like, energy is kind of, how to call that, releasing from your body. It's like you're draining energy, and you're like, oh my God, like, right? So you're absolutely right. Emotions speak also through our bodies and how our bodies react to it, like our physical body.
It's really the only way our emotions have to express what it's feeling, right? Our physical body can't. Our emotions can't express that on our own, right? Sorry, I'm moving around a lot. My dog was just getting into everything.
No worries.
I need to take her under her.
And it's funny too, sometimes other people use their voice and mouth while the emotions are running high, which are sometimes, there are two outcomes to that, right? When the emotions, and I'm gonna get into it, like the higher frequency vibration emotions, the voice becomes this empowering tool for other people, but sometimes it is the lower emotion. It becomes this very negative, cut to the core, hurting kind of outcome, yes. Right? That happens when you use your voice and your mouth.
Yes, especially if it's not managed.
That's why it's like a lot of, like they say, don't make any decisions or don't say anything at the height of your passion, because you cannot take it back once you say it. Exactly. Right? And the impact on other people. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love this topic. When I think higher frequency vibration emotions, just Sheri, are emotions that make me feel so infinite possibilities. Emotions that make me feel like a superwoman, like everything is possible, anything is possible, I can do everything, I can do anything, everything is rosy. Those are my high frequency vibration feelings. So when I feel loved, when I feel like I belong, or when I feel like I'm the best at that moment, that's what I call high frequency.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, anything empowering. Yeah.
Start thinking on.
Yeah, right? And then anything other than that is my low frequency. Anything that I feel like nothing is working out, those feelings. Anything that makes me feel like so more uncertain than ever, and then I start going to a place where instead of imagining all the possibilities, I'm imagining the darkest of darkest that could happen to me. So I try to steer away from those emotions.
Yeah, they take you under. It's a spiral downward.
So when I do emotional cleanse, you're right, I do it several times a day. Now I'm thinking about it. I don't wait till the bedtime when it's already accumulated. It's
Right.
too much to clean, right? It's like a drawer full of negative emotions. I think we have to empty it, just discard it while it's happening, right?
Yes. Yes. Otherwise, it's harder to start it later.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the way I do it, Sheri, is I know it's very cliche. I really find time to meditate. Like this morning, I woke up and I was so pumped, but then I got into this low mode because I was tired. And I'm like, you gotta get up and do your portal meditation, Annie. And I did that and I felt very high again. And I made sure that I have this aura and bubble of like, just float in this aura and bubble energy field of anything is possible. And now the day is really, really great. Any thoughts there, Sheri?
Yeah. I'm learning more and more again about how our body and what we do can affect the mental and the spiritual. And I think that's a good example of where they all come together. With your portal exercises, you're taking your body and you're combining it with your spiritual, right? You're making the physical match the spiritual. And I think that's where that power, that encouragement comes from, because our bodies are not always aligned with our spiritual or even our mental frame of mind, So I feel like when I watch you, I was watching you the other day do that. And that's like how you are. You're making sure that, you're having the physical match the spiritual, and that puts your body in alignment to it. Again, I'm new to all this, but that's just a kind of a new person's observation.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I know I'm still this physical body. I'm still here, right now, where we're talking. And, my ritual starts with like just cleansing the area. And then when I open, I feel just opening up, like imagine I'm opening a door of a different dimension where everything is there for me. I start tearing up, Sheri. I don't know. And then just acting into like stepping into that. I just like this morning, I felt everything that I was talking about. There's this pillar of abundance and health and divine alignment and all of it. They're all waiting there. They're not beings, they're just kind of energy. And I stepped in and they're already hugging me, and I'm just basking in it. And yesterday was different. I was more like talking to them and getting guidance from them. But today they were already there for me waiting, as if like, when are you gonna enter the door? Yesterday I was asking them to come to me and meet with me, but today they're already there. So
yeah. Yes. The preparation was there already. It was, for you and that side both. It was, yesterday the preparation was there, and today it was already in place. There was nothing you needed to do for it.
And
is that kind of like?
Yeah. I hope that you find your way on how to find a place like that. And sometimes people don't have to move, right? Some people, they just kind of think, and then you're just going to stand still or stop during the day and they're there. Right. Maybe that's your method.
Yeah, I'm still finding my method. Traditional meditation that you get when you're at a counselor's office, and that like the body scan, things like that. Those don't work for me. Journaling doesn't work for me. My brain just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work in a vacuum. I need like some guidance, something to walk my brain through it all.
Guided.
So I'm still a guided meditation. And not the body scan guided meditations. That just doesn't work for me either. So I think we all have to find what we work. I think, we kind of learn sometimes that there's one answer for everybody, that there's, this is how you meditate, this is how you heal. But it's so different for all of us. And what I know has worked for other people, it doesn't work for me. So if you're not finding what you're looking for, you need to keep looking, right? It's out there. And for me, I felt like a failure because I couldn't meditate. For
Oh,
years I felt like failure because why can other people meditate and I can't? But I think it's kind of finding, like I've found a few recently with breathing, and like you said, with the guided, my counselor will read, um, she'll read a meditation and guide me through it. And those work for me, and those help. So I think it's going to be different for all of us. We have to find what works for us. Now, I need to try the portal because that's also a physical aspect, right? And I think that would really work with the way my brain works too.
yeah. I think it's because society has a way of defining and labeling things. And the when we were born and we went to school, we were naturally taught to say, this is how it is, and when you are not doing it the way it is, then you are not following, right? That's kind of like
Right.
the programming that we grew up with, not knowing that we are more than that. So Sheri, I like that you brought that up at that one point in life, that you felt like, oh, I wasn't meeting the standards of meditation, when in fact, let me put it simply, in my mind, meditation is an anytime you're aligned with the flow, anytime you feel aligned, anytime you feel this connected, like time is, it doesn't matter what you're doing, time, you're in the zone. You're meditating, Sheri. You could just be cooking. You could just be walking the dog, and at that moment, you're just in utter peace. That's your meditation,
Yes.
Sheri.
Yes, you're right. And to shame myself when I don't have that because it doesn't fit into that box, yeah, it doesn't help, right? It's not productive.
Well, physical taking care of yourself. Sheri, I have a 2-story house, so I don't feel guilty about it at all. I go up and down that stairs every day.
Yes.
Walking the dog. When I'm in front of my computer doing things that I love, like I have a standing desk that I could just adjust. So it's just really any movement, right? What do you think about physical self-care?
Yes, I agree. Right now, I'm looking for a job, so I'm in between jobs. Thank you.
Me too.
One of my one of my most important things is that it be remote, because I do feel like I'm better able to care for myself physically when I work from my home. Like you, I have the standing desk. I have a neighborhood that I can walk, take my dog out in. You can stop and just go down and walk around, do an exercise video. I mean, whatever. It's much more conducive to, and I know before COVID, a lot of people thought it would be worse because we would just be in our homes and, in a work building, you're moving around more. But, at home, I feel like you might have to decide to do it more. But once you do, there's just so many more options to walking around and getting that physical activity, standing, sitting.
Right.
You're in charge of your own environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's if we think about it, this body allows us to do many things in this physical world, right? And so taking care of it really well, even just many things. Like I have a lot of water by my desk to remind me that I need to drink all of them, and it feels very good after all of them are empty. Like how many empty bottles during the day, or like refills that I do during the day, right?
Yeah.
Even when I'm eating. It's not about like, am I gaining weight? Am I like slim enough? It's about like, oh my God, am I gonna eat this burger, or like, would it nourish me so I could be the vessel that I want to be? I start becoming that person, and not because of the diet thing. It's because of that, you want this vessel to be the healthiest vessel as long as you can. Thoughts there, Sheri?
So I like how you've kind of laid out some, maybe without even realizing it or wanting to, you've laid out some tips for us, like for me, like, oh yeah, have the bottles lined up, have them there. It shows kind of your goal, and like how far you've gotten. Like I have a couple of metal cups that keep the water really cold. Fill both of those up in the morning and expect them to be gone at night, I recently went through a heart scare, so I'm working with a dietitian, so I know what you mean. I'm working with someone to help me with the workouts and monitor them so that they're a healthy aerobic workout. Again, not about weight so much, neither piece, but both will help that. It's all about my heart health. And I do feel so much better about myself when I cook myself a healthy meal. I made a jerk chicken with a like a coleslaw the other day.
I saw the
Amazing.
picture. Yeah.
Yes, and it was so healthy, and and those are the ones that I want to post on my Facebook or whatever. Like if I'm eating a burger and a shake, I'm not wanting to be proud and put that out there. But when you make up that nutritious, and like you said, you kind of look at it, and the more you know about foods and their vitamin contents and all that, when you're eating it, you know what you're doing to your body. You're like, wow, this is going to make me, this has iron in it. It's going to make me, have more energy. It's going to make my blood do what it needs to do. This has calcium in it. My body is going to get stronger. Yeah, I think that's so important, is to know, like, the more you know what the body needs and what those foods do. When you, like you said, when you make that plate up, you look at it, you just feel good looking at it before you even eat it.
You're touching
when you
on
that to your children, it's even more like
absolutely
I'm helping them.
Yeah, Sheri, you're touching on something that I think is important too. That is not so obvious. It's this intentional nourishing the body intentionally. So imagine you just bought a burger at McDonald's. You went to the drive-thru, you ate it. Of course, you're happy. But imagine you cooked your food. And while you're cooking your food, you're putting love in it. You're putting this positive energy in it. And then when you're eating it, you're feeling so good about it. The levels, the vibration, the level of energy as you were nourishing your body compared to like just going through a drive-thru because you didn't have time, isn't that more magnified, more positive, and more magical?
Yes, the whole process is just such a positive process. I know when we lived by each other, I would watch you prepare the bento boxes for your son. And I mean, I was nourished just watching how you did it with so much love and so much intention. Like you were taking that time. You weren't just throwing a Lunchable in a bag. You weren't just paying the school to feed him. You were putting everything in that to nourish him. Like, he needs this, he needs this. He's at this age. I know what he needs. And yeah, it was beautiful to even just watch it.
Yeah, now that we're talking about it, yes, it's not just about being it's not just about putting the good food in the body. It's leveraging that our power of putting an intent into the food, into whatever that thing that nourishes the physical body, and then really charging it with that positive intent, with that cosmic intent, right? I think this is great conversation. This is one way of like feeding our physical body, right, Sheri?
Yes. Well, and again, I think we normally take that for granted, right? We don't think of the process of making a meal as being spiritual, but it is. It's all those things. It's, it can help our mood. It can, it's not just cutting up vegetables or cutting up food, and cooking it. It's a whole process. Before COVID, I was not a cook. I did not know how to cook. I had no clue. Because I was home so much, though, because I'd always been a working mother, and I didn't learn how to cook growing up, so I just wasn't a cook. But being at home for 4 years now, I actually started with HelloFresh because it was simple. They gave me all the instructions, all the pieces that I needed, and it was just real easy. And through that process, I've learned more how to cook, how to prepare, and how to enjoy the process of it. I'm actually joyful when I get the food all ready to go, and I'm like in there cooking. It always takes longer than they say it does, but it's a fun process that I feel so positive about.
So imagine your body taking that positively charged, love charged food compared to just going to a drive-thru.
Yes.
Where people are like, right, like putting it in a factory setting, no intent.
Yep.
I believe our body would love to just have food that is more prepared with love, right?
Yes. Because, again, we're a whole person. all those pieces, come together. And I think until you've experienced it, it's hard for us to explain
yeah.
what that like or what a difference that makes for us. But having done it now, it's like I feel enriched.
Yep.
After I cooked a meal or while I've even been cooking it. But it's just that whole process that makes you feel so much better. I think it helps me spiritually. It helps me physically. Mentally, it's good for you too, because you're exercising your mind. You're not just sitting in a car telling them what you want.
Yeah. And I think as we end this physical, we've got lots of tips for our listeners. I want to give you another tip. So I've always believed in the power of water. So Sheri, every time I drink water, I bless the water with whatever I want. Or I say I energize the water with light, and then I partake the water. So, or even not the soda, the ice with carbonated drink, whatever liquid. Try it, Sheri. See if it makes a difference in your life. But water is a big thing in our body, right? So, drinking water right now.
Well, I like what you've said in the past too about our whole world is made up of water. There's a connection there. Right? It's not just something that we drink, that we need to drink. It's a connection to everything we have.
Sometimes I stand in front of our pool and I weed the water, and I say I just kind of use it as a portal to receive blessings and energy. When I'm showering, I do the same. I energize the water shower. And
you're covering yourself in that water.
Yes, Sheri, when you think of it, it's everything, every movement is kind of just being one with everything around us, right? Almost.
Yes, that is what I am learning now.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some sensory issues that when I take a shower, it actually feels painful sometimes.
Okay.
Especially before I get in, after I get out, I'm wet, it's cold. So I think I will try that, is changing my perspective on it and see if that helps. I like what you said about, being aware of this is the water coming down to cleanse me, to change, get rid of the toxins, to get rid of any dirt, anything, to make me healthy. And just, like I said, I'm just learning how to do all this, but I think that's an important step in being aware of it.
The awareness.
Because usually all I'm aware of is the pain. Yeah.
Yeah, and changing the story around it, changing the narrative.
Absolutely. Reframing that is powerful.
Yeah. I also remember I would have inspiration when I wash my hands. I always say I'm cleansing my old self. This is after I wash my hands. I'm now my new self. And then every doorway in the house, when I open the door, there will be days that I'm very so inspired to do that. I come in and I come out of the bathroom. I said, it's my new world now. It's my new self. I'm my new self. There is a day that is a very strong vibration to do that, Sheri. So I don't know, maybe you want to try that too.
Yes. That changes the whole thought around what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you aware of how it is all connected and how powerful the power you have, your availability to.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now the mental one, let's start with the idea of mental care, of learning something new, or just always being agile, being flexible, being open. That's how I see the mental. Is just really having the ability to be open to new things at all times and being able to learn, having your mind ready to learn anything new, and always be ready, vigilant in that, and not wait till a training program or a date, because sometimes, right, life throws you a curveball, or life throws you a lesson. It's very subtle, but if you have your mind ready for that, you tend to go with life better that way. What are your thoughts about what I'm just saying here?
So growing up, I always felt like there was something more that we weren't learning at school, right? I just always felt like, God, there's got to be something more that we're not tapping into. When my sons started going to school, they started talking about growth mindset. And the more I learned about that growth mindset, the more I'm like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for since I was a little kid. This is powerful stuff, right? So I agree that is what it is all about. It's all about being aware of learning opportunities, being open to them, not being afraid of them. My favorite phrase for this is the power of the word yet. I can't dance. I can't dance yet, right? Yet changes all of it. So you can't do something. That's the whole learning part. And you might be horrible at it. Think of anything. I mean, even the basis of just walking as a child. How horrible were we all at walking when we were babies, right? You don't start out doing something. But I think the older we get, the more we expect that, hey, I should just be able to do this because I want to do it or because I've been hired to do it. I should just be able to do all this. But it's a learning process, and that doesn't have to be a negative thing. That can be a very positive thing because as you're learning how to do one thing, all the pieces for other things are in there as well. And it's opening you up to other things, not just that one narrow thing that you're learning.
Yeah, I feel like when people hear the word learn, they think like school. They think, this kind of formal setting where they have to sit down and focus. But I'm learning that for me, mental self-care, it can be anything from just reading books, listening to YouTube or a podcast, or just even scrolling through my TikTok. I try to think beyond what people are saying, social media and all of that, but because when I'm intentionally seeking for wisdom or for something that would nourish me, somehow I know it comes through these various things around us, a social media or some kind of an inspiration or a TV program or a movie. And I know...
kind of go for it.
Yeah, so learning is not just about like a program or a course, right, Sheri?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something that long and complicated.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking, obviously if you have to learn something for your job or a new career, that might be different. You might have to take a class, but in everyday learning and in learning about ourselves, and learning how to grow as a person, that's bits and pieces, especially nowadays. It's everywhere. You just got to pick up your phone and, you can learn anything nowadays. Yeah, you can something, you can go onto YouTube. And sometimes even if you don't know what you want to learn, just like you said, scrolling doesn't have to be doom scrolling. It can be a very positive scrolling. It can be growth scrolling.
Yeah, so for instance, I wanted to create my website, but I didn't want to spend money on people creating my website, or I wanted to put something as a feature of my website, but I didn't want to invest on like monthly fees, right? And at first it was overwhelming, but then, and I just kept going and figuring out, and I suddenly thought, oh, I was led to this and this and this and this, and I don't have to put some initial investment. I could just form it all. And through that process, in the last 4 or 5 days, I learned so much. Right? But I think that the message here of mental learning is just making sure that every day you feel like you're finding new knowledge. You're learning more about yourself, your environment, your learning skills, like even if it's just washing your clothes or cooking. And I think most importantly too, just sharing that learning, right? Because you learn from sharing.
Yes. You do. We learn from each other.
Yeah. And I think
that's way to learn as a connector, right?
Yes. The reason why I started a podcast, I guess I've been doing some videos, but podcasting is a bit of a different intent, right? So when you're making videos, you're kind of showing yourself and you're talking to someone. But a podcast is more about thoughts, right, into words, and having someone listen to it and then think, but not necessarily watching a video. I don't know if I'm articulating myself right. So, and then what happens now is when you're listening to someone, you're trying to see, is that my truth? Am I resonating with that truth? Or it makes you also question yourself. oh, if I don't agree with Sheri, what do I agree with? What is my truth, right? So that's kind of what I think podcast is different from a video content.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that, because I always go through that process, but I didn't know if that was normal for everybody, to go through that process. But it would make sense that it is, that, yeah, you're saying, does this align with what I believe? And if it doesn't, where does it line up? Or what do I believe? Is it parallel to that? Or is it similar, but there's some adjustments?
Mm-hmm,
And again, we're all equals. So I am going through something right now and I've been going through it for several years, since I turned 50, struggling with the whole middle age, how life changes us at this point. And my biggest solution to all the struggling I'm doing has been learning. So it's interesting that we're coming up on this topic, because, I kind of had to sit down and go, well, so, you go through your younger years and you have all these things that happen in your life, right? And right now, this is probably the least exciting, the least full time of life for me, because I'm not having children. I'm not yet to the stage where I'm having grandchildren. I'm not just starting out in the world and getting my own place, nothing felt exciting. It just kind of felt all used up, right? So I gave a lot of thought to that. And what I have come up with is that learning a new skill, even just the smallest thought every day is what's kind of saving me from that. If I'm not learning, I'm not changing, I'm just stagnant. There's nothing motivating me. So it's interesting that we're talking about this.
And I think I love your sharing, really, Sheri, because you intentionally decided to change your narrative by learning.
Yes.
By learning. And then you're just that thing that says, okay, here's how I define where I am now. I'm aware that I'm feeling this way, and I'm aware that this is how I am seeing it. Just that taking the step to say, I want to change it. And then
yes.
To change that, you started seeking. And the learning becomes this natural outcome of that seeking.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be, I think it's, for some people that would be intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was for me at first, but knowing that it can be the tiniest little thing,
Mm-hmm.
The tiniest little thing can get you on that path of learning. And and learning doesn't have to be the same thing every day. I'm learning how to crochet. I'm learning about my emotions. I'm learning more about manifesting. I'm learning about how to be a better mother. I still have a teen in the house. I have an older daughter that I'm still a mother for. So yeah, it's and like you said, it's that narrative in your mind. What are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself, I'm past 50, my whole life is over, everything I've wanted has happened and I'm done? Or am I just getting started? Am I still on that path to, I'm alive, I can have a future. And the future, who knows what's in that future?
That could be our next topic, Sheri. It's like life, like, how do we find this if life is a ruler, if each inch is 10 years, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Why would we think that it stops midway at 7 inches or 6 inches? When
but
this is
people, especially even, I think we have it better than maybe generations before us, because that used to be all anybody thought of was, I'm going to retire, and then when they retired, that's it. They didn't have to work anymore. They didn't have to learn anymore. They didn't have to do anything, right?
I cannot imagine that.
I think with the internet and all the resources we have open to us, we see the potential for that. We don't want to do that.
Yes, it's how I've always said I told my son, I'm gonna live as long as I want, so you better be ready. I mean, we leave. I said, I truly believe we leave this world when we want to, and I don't. Yeah. I'm enjoying life, and I'm gonna discover and just milk life as much as I can. So I'm gonna defy this oh, average people live this way. Well, that's typical average thinking. We're not in that realm anymore, right, Sheri?
Right. Right. There's nothing holding us to that anymore.
The last one is spiritual self-care, and I wish I knew this when I was younger, but then again, there's no regret, right? We're always in a perfect spot in our life. Like, we have our own way of learning and our own pace. So yeah, I've always thought I'm connected with some purpose, and I the way I'm self-care with that is every day I just remind myself that.
Yes. I'm not sure exactly where this fits in our discussion, but I want to also mention other people, how important they are for all the aspects of our life. So I don't know if maybe there's even a fifth level here of social health, right?
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself socially. And to me, all that is surrounding yourself with positive people, people that align with you. Like you and I, we bring each other up. One of us can be having a bum day, but we're talking, and then it brings us up. It helps us to stay on this journey. I think it would have been a lot harder to stay on this journey if I didn't have anybody that I could go to and talk about my manifestations and the struggles I have, or the triumphs that I have. I think that's if someone doesn't have that in their life, start asking for it like we did and found each other.
And I think that's the self-care you're doing, right? You know how you want to connect to your purpose, and your purpose, and my purpose, I know my purpose is just to be an instrument of how to make this world a better place, a happy place, like a place that is so happy and wealthy and prosperous and ever expanding and ever empowering. Because I know when I do something related to that, I feel like a Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I feel lost. Like, even if I'm just blogging, and if I don't know if people are gonna read my blog, but just writing about it, I just feel like I can conquer the whole world. So I know that's my purpose.
Exactly. And even if it does just touch a few people or one person, even, you've changed that person. And like you said, even if no one reads it, you've changed yourself in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the self-care message there is, if you do something that makes you feel empowered and makes you feel like you're in the flow, you're living that purpose, you're connecting that purpose. And if you do more and more of that every day or every moment of the day, like if you have 18 hours of waking hours, that's huge. That's a huge spiritual self-care.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is. It's going to go a very long way for you.
And then, it would just eventually turn into a mental learning, and it becomes, and then influences your emotion, right? And then energizes you, which might inspire you to do a lot more physical movement. I don't know. Well,
it all together, it all influences each other.
It's woven all together, right? So, okay, listeners, Sheri, I love everything that I've learned from you today, and
same.
I think we should take down notes of some of the areas we want to uncover more, and then just kind of share with our listeners what we think about it, help them also figure out what they think about it, help them with their self-awareness journey. Yeah.
Yes.
So as we close out, what are some of the closing remarks you want to share with our listeners today?
Well, I think it like I said, it all boils down to keeping in mind the different areas and how they all fit together. So if you're working on one area at a time, know that it's also benefiting other areas. It's not, you're not just doing something physical. That physical is going to help your mental health. It's going to help your spiritual health. They all, we're like an onion with a lot of layers, right? And those layers affect each other. It's not separable. It's not, here's my mental health, but it doesn't affect my physical health, and vice versa.
Well said. I think, yeah, our message is, health is just beyond physical, right? When I remember in school, whenever we say health, it's just workouts and fitness and all of that, right? And then next thing you know, as we're growing up, health, it's the food we eat and all of that, right? And now we're really uncovering there's just many layers, and it's really a spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, and all of that working together. You'll be set. You'll be able to ride the wave of life. You'll be able to ride the ebb and flow of life, right?
Yeah, you're going to have days where you can't. You're going to have days where you don't want to get out of bed, right?
Yeah, it's normal.
But if you take a step back and you look throughout your life, you're going to have more and more of those powerful days and less of those days that you're struggling. Absolutely. But it takes time, and it takes intention.
Yeah, intention and commitment, and it's okay. You don't have to pressure yourself. You don't have to stress yourself, and then just enjoy every part of it, every step of it, right?
Yes.
Well, Sheri, thank you for joining me, and for our listeners, we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day. Bye.